Shalom. First thing and foremost, I'm going to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone and rule well. Peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect. Noah's in the gospel abroad, lifting up the standard of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, wherever it may be. This is another lesson through the Spirit. It says San Francisco sues food giants over ultra processing products. Look like you're about 50, 60 years too late. They've been overly processing the food since going back to the 80s, the 90s rather, probably even before then. I mean, the foods were essentially better, as far as like the whole products and the whole foods. But now you don't know what the hell you eat, from lab grown chicken to lab grown rat meat, which they say it's chicken, processed beef, lunch meat, all that shit. It's all chemicals, man. So it says here, city argues corporations profit while communities bear the cost of disease linked to ultra-processed foods. And this is a true statement. This is why the scriptures say that the hidden things of Esau is being searched out, because ever since the prophets came on the scene, you notice since we came on the scene, going back into the elders and the apostles, 40 plus years, the men of the Lord have been on the scene. Notice that a lot of this information is coming out now, and Esau is being confounded because the scriptures goes into inquisition should be made at them, And at this time, we're under extreme investigation of investigating this devil because, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai has set up the men to expose this wickedness, man. That's why all this is essentially coming out. But it says San Francisco filed the nation's first government lawsuit. And the crazy part about it is, even though, the federal government and, what they deregulate shit and then they regulate certain shit and then, they're not very transparent. The states was in on this too, because why they just not saying something after 50 years, after people then ingested red number 40, red number 5, yellow number 5, orange number 225, chloride. They got all types of shit in the food that don't belong in food. But it says San Francisco files the nation's first government lawsuit against food manufacturers over ultra processing foods. And this is a bad look for Esau, which they call UPFs, on Tuesday, arguing that local governments have been shouldering the cost of treating diseases that stem from public consumption of the company's products. And this is the reason why obesity, cancer, type 2 diabetes is at an all-time high, man, because the shit you putting in your food. Okay, they said it's, if you got more than 5 or so ingredients in a particular product, it's best to not even eat it. But like when you look at your potato chips, like I got these what is this shit I got? Where the fuck is it at? I had got these protein bars, man. And I may have had a couple of them because eventually you can't really get away from it. But I'm looking at the ingredients on this protein bar, man, and for something that should be 3 ingredients, protein, you got your proteins, you got your whole grains, you got your oats, whatever. This shit has, wow. Wow. Okay. So, whey protein crisp, whey protein concentrate, cornstarch, calcium carbonate. That's why I don't really eat this shit. I may have had like 2 or 3 maybe over time, but I don't really eat this shit. I try to stay away from like mainstream grocery chains that just have ultra processed. Like you wouldn't catch me, I may here and there may buy some chips or something, but overall it's got to be, pretty whole in order for me to eat it. But, it's really no avoid none of this shit. But it has cornstarch, calcium carbonate, chocolate flavor coating, sugar, vegetable oil, palm kernel oil, palm oil, sorbitan tricerate, TBHQ, citric acid to preserve freshness. All capitalism, man. Okay, that's all this shit is, greed and capitalism, because they want to be able to sell this shit, But it says here, protein, isolate, cocoa, processed with alkali, whatever the hell, natural flavor, soy lectin, vanilla flavor clean, layer sugar, vegetable oil, soybean oil, non-dry fat milk, dry whole milk, milk fat, soy lectin, natural flavor, corn syrup, caramel, glucose syrup, sugar, palm oil, non-fat, gelatin, butter, cream, etc. And it's way more for a fucking protein shake, right? Cookies and cream, naturally flavored with other natural flavors, right? That's why I'm glad I didn't really eat this shit. But that's the point. And this is why these companies are being sued. Because, I mean, how the hell are they getting away with putting all that in the food, man? That's wild. But anyway, it says that stem from public consumption of the companies of its products. It says the city's attorney, David Choi, sued 10 corporations that created some of the country's most popular food and drinks, from chicken nuggets to frozen pizza. And you know, little Jake boys, they love chicken nuggets, man. All right, most boys between the age of 5 and 12 got the chicken nugget demon on them, I call it. Like my little brother, that nigga had a McNugget demon on him. You know, every time we went to McDonald's as kids, the only thing that nigga wanted was a chicken McNugget meal. You know, to the point boy was gonna turn into a fucking McNugget, man. That's how much he ate them. Probably why he's bugged out to this day. But it says the city's attorney, David Choi, sued 10 corporations that created some of the country's most popular food and drinks, from chicken nuggets and frozen pizzas to potato chips to sugary breakfast cereals, but also foods like breads and granola bars that are marked as healthy. Hey, those protein bars, they supposed to be healthy, but that shit got like 200 ingredients in it for a freaking candy bar, man, or a freaking bar of protein. It says UFPs are industrially manufactured food products and contain ingredients not found in an average home kitchen, such as preservatives, flavor enhancers, artificial food colors, and emulsifiers with little to no whole food content, and yet they're getting away with this shit. This is why the medical associations or the healthcare industry is a big business. It's a multi-billion-dollar business a year, because it's like a revolving door. You treat people and sick, keep them coming back. Ultimately, in the hospital, you know, they have repeating customers, because once you on diabetes medication, you're pretty much stuck on that shit for life unless you get yourself off of it. But high blood pressure, obesity, type 2 diabetes, gout, man, everybody's suffering from some type of inflammatory gut disease, Crohn's disease. I mean, the list goes on, because it's the food. And the food has gotten a lot worse over the years, man. You know? But yet, you got people that want to stay here, and you got people that want to save the heathen. But yet, this is what the heathen is responsible for, putting poison in your food, man. You know? See, when you go to places like Europe and different countries, they don't play this shit, man. All right? Like the McDonald's over in places like Western Germany or the UK, even though the UK, they're pretty much, they like America, man. But even then, it's a lot more healthier. But when you go to certain places in Europe, they don't play with this ingredients. You know, like they stated that 170 ingredients in the UK is banned. You know, 170 ingredients that they use in the United States is banned over in other countries, man. Like if you look up and you can Google this. You can Google Heinz ketchup, Heinz ketchup, the American version versus the Canadian version, and you're gonna realize that the Canadian version of Heinz ketchup is more natural. They think they got like brown sugar in it or like maple syrup. It's a more natural ingredient, but the ketchup that we get here is processed, man. Same thing when you go to McDonald's over in Europe, you actually getting French fries, but over here you don't know what the hell you getting. There's an AI channel that pretty much expose these fast food restaurants like Wendy's and McDonald's and Arby's and all the fast food chains. They expose them and they basically show how the food is toxic. And now we're seeing it because everybody is fucking fat, man. But it said it estimated that more than 70% of the U.S. food supply is composed of foods commonly considered ultra-processed, and that children get over 60% of their calories from such foods. It says the world's largest review, published last month, found that UPFs are linked to harm in every major organ system of the human body, godly, and pose a seismic threat to global health. It reads they are associated with an increased risk of a dozen health conditions, including cancer. That's a big one here. Obesity, and this is why they're able to spend 300. There's a new college they opening up out here in Kansas City, which is attached to one of the major hospitals out here. And I think they spent, what was it? Was it 300 million on that motherfucker? I think it cost 300 million to build it. You know, that's a lot of money. It was either 30 million or $300 million to build this fucking hospital, this college for nurses and all this other stuff. Why? Because I mean, essentially, people are sick. So as long as you have McDonald's, Burger King, you know, Starbucks, and all these other places, these little fast food chains, hospitals, cancer centers, you know, what do you call those? Rheumatologists, which is deals with lupus. You're gonna always have these particular corporations that stick around because the food. You know, it makes sense. Poison everybody through the food supply. You would never have a medical overturn because shit, as long as you're feeding people poison, they're gonna have to go to the doctor, and the doctors will always have a salary to collect at the end that will collect throughout the year. So essentially, they would never be unemployed, and that was all by design, man. That's why this fucking devil got to pay. All right. So anyway, let's get a precept here. This is the book of Ezekiel 4, and I'm gonna start at verses. Let's start at verses 9. And it says, take thou also unto thee wheat and barley and beans and lentils and millet and finches, and put them in one vessel, and make thee bread thereof, according to the number of the days that thou shalt lie upon thy side. 390 days shalt thou eat thereof. Going into this captivity period, you know, we're eating defiled bread. When we got off the cargo slave ships, they was feeding us the worst parts of animals. We was eating, you know, chitlins, which is nothing but pig intestines. And Jake, they go ham over that shit every year for a holiday called Thanksgiving. Hell, Jake even picked chitlins for Christmas, man. You know, bacon, fucking crab legs, pig feet, pig ears. It's Jake eating raccoon, especially them down south Jakes. You ever hear some coon, bro? Hell no, I ain't never taste that shit. You know, frog legs, all the things that's not really good for consumption. And it says, and thy meat which thou shalt eat should be by weight, 20 shekels a day. From time to time shalt thou eat it. It says, thou shalt drink also water by measure, and the sixth part of a hin, and from time to time thou shalt drink. Even the water is defiled, and thou shalt eat it as barley cakes, and thou shalt bake it with dung that come out of the man, that come out of man in that sight. So the food is equated to shit, man. And this is what we're eating. It says, and Yahweh said, even thus shall the children of Israel eat their defiled bread among the Gentiles, whither I drive them. Okay, so this is the reason why the food is all poison. But Esau messed up because his own people were suffering from this same system. Peep this. It says, in every major organ system of the human body impose a seismic threat to global health. It says they're associated with an increased risk of a dozen health conditions, including cancer. That's big here. Obesity. That's very big. It says type 2 diabetes, depression, heart disease, cognitive decline. And these are the leading rates of illnesses in America, man. Because everybody is fat, man. Like they say, 60% of black women are obese, man. Okay? Diabetes, depression. Everybody's depressed. Heart disease. Hell, I know people in their 20s that got fucking heart problems, man. No gallbladder. Cognitive decline. It says that review also found that global corporations, not individual choices, are driving the rise of UPFs. It says ultra-processed foods are the leading cause of chronic disease pandemic linked to diet, because essentially the diet is your health. Okay? What you eat, they say you are what you eat. Food is supposed to be medicine. It says which food companies putting profit above all else, the author said. But Choi's lawsuit filed in San Francisco Superior Court on behalf of the state of California will seek unspecific damages for the cost that cities and countries bear for treating residents whose health has been harmed by ultra-processed foods. And they've been known about this, but now since people are waking up to the fact, now they want to do something about it. But it's like I said, everybody is already sick from the shit. You know, we've grew up with fruit by the fruit by the foot, bomb pops. You know, we've grown up with Doritos, Flaming Hots, Icy Cups, Now and Laters, Chico Sticks, Boston Baked Beans, M&M's, Skittles, Apple Jacks, Fruity Pebbles, Fruit Loops, you know, Kabooms. We grew up with all that shit, Frosted Flakes, all that shit, man. You know, the TV dinners, the Star Cakes, the Debbie Cupcake. We grew up with all that shit, man. So essentially, we all messed up. That's why we gonna need the mercy of the Heavenly Father, because without His mercy, we cook, literally. And it reads, unspecified damages for the cost that cities and countries bear for treating residents whose health has been harmed by ultra-processed foods. San Francisco accuses the companies of unfair and deceptive acts and how they market and sell their foods, arguing that such practices violate the state's unfair competition law and public nuisance statute. I mean, they should be going to jail for murder, because essentially they're murdering people. That's murder, because you're doing this shit intentional with the intent to harm. Okay, you can say, well, we're cutting costs and we want things to be preserved. No, food ain't designed to be preserved. It's designed to be eaten and disposed of if you have abundance or whatever. It's not meant to be preserved. You're supposed to get rid of the shit, you know? If you got means to preserve it, you freeze it, put it on ice, and be done with it. But ain't no fucking bag of Doritos supposed to last no goddamn 2 months, man. Put a flamethrower to a fucking Big Mac and that shit don't burn up. And this is what I'm supposed to be eating? Hell nah. That's wickedness, bro. That's intentional. Esau created these things with nefarious purposes, bro. This is why he got to be put out. This is why this man got to go in slavery. No ifs, ands, or buts. I don't want no Edomites next to me in the kingdom. No, unless I'm dealing with their women. But anyway, it says it argues that companies knew that their food make people sick, but sold it anyway. That's murder. Okay, the scriptures say, thou shalt not murder. It says it makes me sick that generations of kids and parents are being deceived about buying food that's not food. But I mean, if you read the labels and you look the shit up, essentially, if you can't pronounce what's on back of the food label, then you probably don't need to be eating this shit. And that's just real talk. But it says it makes a rare moment of alignment between liberal San Francisco and the Trump administration. But Donald Trump's Health and Human Services Secretary, RFK Jr., has railed against UPFs of one of his least polarizing stances as part of his Make America Healthy Again mission, urging Americans to limit their consumption of foods with added sugars, salts, fats, dyes, and preservatives. But that's all you have in the store. Like right now, I can go to a local grocery store and look for a particular product, and it got all this shit in there, so you can't avoid it. And if you want to get the healthy stuff, you're going to spend a dime, you know? But it says here, Choi stresses to the Times that he did not agree with Kennedy on other health topics, including vaccine skepticism. But he said that the science was indisputable when it comes to ultra-processed foods. It says many of the perspectives of this administration are not backed by science, but this is different, he said. Even a broken clock is right twice a day, and it ain't fucking science to know that your diet's supposed to be on point. It says the defendants in the lawsuit, including the Coca-Cola Company, PepsiCo, Kraft Heinz Company, Post Holdings, and Mondelez International. It also names General Mills, Nestle USA, Kellogg's, Mars Corporation, and Conagra Brands. But earlier this year, California passed a bipartisan bill that became the first in the U.S. to provide a statutory definition of UPFs and laid a foundation for banning them from schools, because in elementary school, we did eat a bunch of processed shit. I'm not even going to lie. You know, but that was done on purpose as well, especially the inner schools. It says California has banned several additives, including food dyes, linked to behavioral difficulties in children in schools. But in 2010, San Francisco banned fast food restaurants from giving free toys. Yep, because of the plastics and the shit that they put in it, the chemicals. The city's attorney office also has a track record of winning against big corporations on public health matters, including tobacco companies, lead paint manufacturers, and opioid manufacturers, distributors, and dispensers, man. Okay? So anyway, let's go here. Let's go back, read a little bit more. And it reads, verse 14, and then he said, I, Lord Yahweh, behold, my soul have never been polluted. It says, for from my youth up until now have I not eating of that which died of itself, or is torn in pieces, neither came there abominable flesh in my mouth, because Ezekiel was a priest. He didn't eat abominable foods. So he's like, I'm not getting ready to eat this. You tripping. You know, but this is equated to what the hell we're eating now, because the food is just as bad. Okay, you be better off consuming human feces before you eating this shit. And I'm not telling you to go eat, you know, I ain't telling you to go eat a feces sandwich with some fucking ketchup and mustard and mayo in there. No. But when you think about it, the food you're eating is trash, man. This is why Jake have headaches. This is why Jake has short attention spans, ADHD, ADD. Okay, this is why Jake is all aggressive, man. Like, niggas sucking on Kool-Aid packages before he start first period in the morning of school, man. I remember them days, Jake going to school, and I got homies with it. These niggas are drinking Kool-Aid out of a fucking Ziploc bag at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And wonder why the niggas expelled from school by the third period, man. By the time he gets to school at 8 o'clock, he's already getting kicked out by 10:30 due to his behavior. This place got to go, man. Moreover, then he said unto me, Lo, I've given thou these cows' dung for men's dung, which essentially is no better, and thou shalt prepare thy bread therewith. Moreover, he said unto me, Son of man, behold, I will break the staff of bread in Jerusalem, and they that eat bread by weight and with care, and they should drink water by measure and with astonishment, and that they may want bread and water, and be astonished one with another, and consume away for their iniquity. So it's really because we messed up with the Heavenly Father, but luckily, through the will of the Heavenly Father, we're okay, because the Lord is preserving us. Mark 16, and I'm going to start at verses 18. And it reads, it says, and they should take up serpents, and if they drink any deadly thing, it should not hurt them. And they should lay hands on the sick, and they should recover. Yeah, we're drinking deadly shit now, and we're still alive and well. Until the Spirit of the Lord is doing, until the Spirit of the Lord do what he do. Redeem us and change our bodies, because we need new bodies, man. These bodies are designed to break down and decay. And even in its weakened state, the body is still a pretty amazing vessel, bro, because it can self-recover, it can heal itself, the things you put in it. The body can function optimally if you're given the right and necessary tools to make it function. But when you got this man bombarding you with chemicals 24/7, hell, you go in the fucking house and the pillow you sleep on is giving you fucking cancer. It's like, what the hell? Or you can't use the bathroom. You stand up and piss, then you're going to get a tumor in your balls. Like, what the hell? Oh, when you drink the water, then, the water's going to kill you. Or you open the refrigerator, you're going to get cancer from that. Like, you can't do anything. Like, you're basically here to die. All right? This place is fucking hell, bro. I can't stand being here. And anybody that want to sit here and say the heathens, man, you're part of the problem. All right? Job 10, and I'm going to start at verses 18. It says, wherefore then thou hast brought me forth out of the womb, or that I have given up the ghost, and no eye has seen me. He's like, I would rather stay in the spirit world before I come down and have to suffer this. And it says here, I should have been as though I had not been. I should have been carried from the womb to the grave, man, meaning back to the spirit world. I mean, the grave is essentially the death, the grave, the ground, but he meaning going back to the Heavenly Father. It says, are not my days few? It says, cease then and let me alone, that I may take comfort a little. But before I go whence I should not return, even to the land of darkness and the shadow of death. The land of darkness as darkness itself, and of the shadow of death without any order, and where the light is as darkness here. Yep. And that's right here in America, man. Scripture's called this place the city of fucking confusion, man. The city of confusion, because light is dark, dark is light. Like, since when ultra processed foods is a good thing? And they've been feeding this to kids for the last 60, 70 years, man. All right, matter of fact, let's do this. Let me do this, man. Fuck is it at? Oh, well. I'm trying to think of a 90s drink. Let me think of food. Let's think snacks from the 90s. Snacks from the 90s. And let's look this up. All right. Look at this. Dunkaroos. All right. We got the 90s were often filled with often brightly colored and sugary snacks. And those of us that grew up in the 90s, we know about all this. And, it affect our children, because our children, forever chemicals. And ultimately, what you put into you is just passed down. But everything was colorful. Why? Because this was all food coloring. I remember when we used to celebrate that wicked holiday, Easter, which goes back to Ishtar. We used to put the dye. We used to do the dye color eggs, man. And essentially that shit dyes into the egg. It's crazy what we used to do. But it says the 90s were filled with iconic, often brightly colored and sugary snacks like Dunkaroos, Gushers, Fruit by the Foot, and Cosmic Brownies, alongside classic candies like Push Pops, Ring Pops, Fruitopia, all sugar, Kudo Bars, Capri Suns, Oreos, Oreo cereals, Gokurt, 3D Doritos, Paul Crackers, Jello Pudding Pops, and etc., man. It says embodying fun indulgence and a touch of processed chemical goodness. Chemicals, man. But the food was better in the 90s, but this is the shit that the reason why a lot of Jakes are suffering now, man. Look at this. I mean, we ate all this, brothers, and all this coloring and shit is nothing but dyes. Pop-Tart, the toaster strudel, the Twinkie, the Zingers, the piece of rolls, man. Hell, even Hawaiian Punch, that shit used to be hella sweet in the 90s. It's not as sweet no more. They still sell it, but the last time I had a Hawaiian Punch, maybe like 15, 16 years ago, it was like a swallow of it, and I was like, yeah, this tastes different. Maybe been longer than that. I haven't drank that shit since I graduated from high school, but still, this is what we used to eat. And the shit tastes good, but, the reason why Jake is through now, discontinued. Butterfinger BBs, Squeeze It, I remember those. PB Crisp Tacos, French Toast Crunch. Yeah, we was cooked, man. The water, how about you, how was shot for getting us out of this darkness? Meats. And Slovakia, brothers, man. Cognitively, I'm a little off. I'm tired. I didn't get too good sleep last night, so if I seem a little disoriented, a little mumbled today, I'm actually tired as hell, and I'm getting ready to take a good nap. Since I got the rest of the day off, just last night was just real hectic. Got in a little late, and I had to get up early this morning. So Slovakia, if I'm not as fluent as I would be, shit, the body tells you when you gotta chill out, and I'm gonna listen to my body because I need to get some rest. But anyway, this is the book of Sirach 37. If that scripture's going to the belly of all means, that one is better. Yep, the starter verse is. It's another one I was looking for too. This is the book of Sirach 37. And I'm going to start at verses 28. It says, for all things are not profitable for all men, neither have every soul pleasure in everything. So even though some things may be lawful, like chicken is lawful, but chicken may not be good for a brother. He may not be able to keep it down. He may have some type of gut issue to the point he can't eat meat. Like if you got Lyme's disease, which, from ticks, then you can't eat red meat, even though red meat is not unlawful, but you can't eat it. So that's not for all men. But it says, be not unsightable in any dainty thing, nor too greedy upon meats. It says, for excess of meats bringeth sickness, and surfeiting returneth to choler. And by surfeiting, which is partying, many have perished, but he that taketh heed prolongeth his life. Okay. Hold up. Let me look up another. It's another one I was looking for. Where the man would be, let me see this here. Diet is not in the scriptures, is it? No. Yep, bingo. This is what I'm looking for, Sirach 30. And I'm going to start at verses 25 and I'll end it. It reads, a cheerful and good heart will have care of his meat and diet. So, yeah, you got to be careful on what you're eating, okay? But anyway, with that, all praises and glory and honor is due to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim Kakodash. Lord's will, you edified. Until the next lesson. Shalom.